Hi, my name is Rhonda Brown. I'd like to share with you my presentation for my case study in educational administration regarding mission and vision statements for my EDL 852 class. Okay, section 1 is a summary of the case. So this case is regarding Lightville Community School District. Lightville is a community school that is in a rural location. Approximately a little over 60% of the students in that school live on farms. There's recently been an influx of new residents. It is changing the political and social climate of the area. That influx of new residents is due to the fact that they are 10 miles from a large city and have some pretty low land costs. So, lots of people moving in. Currently, there are two schools, and they are located on one campus. There's an elementary school that's 22 years old, and then there's a high school that's 11 years old. When the high school was built 11 years ago, they anticipated that that would serve the needs of the community for the next 40 years. So they did not anticipate this big influx of new residents, and that's causing some overcrowding problems at both schools. So there are space problems at both the elementary and the high school. So, an architectural firm was hired to work with an educational planner and identify the options for relieving that space problem. And they identified three options. The first option was an addition to the junior and senior high school, and then they'd move the sixth graders to that building. So the second option was building additions on both schools. And the third option was to build a new middle school facility for sixth to eighth grades. That would be on the same campus. The firm recommended option three. The superintendent concurred with that recommendation and recommended that option to the board. The board then voted for a referendum, so they were going to put this to a public vote. All right, the community then divided into three factions. The first faction was primarily large landowners, and that faction did not believe that any new construction should be done until the current debts were paid off in about 9 years. So they wanted to wait to deal with the problem until after the current debts of the school district were paid. The second faction were other residents that favored options one and two. And just as a reminder, those options were to build an addition to the high school and move the sixth graders over, or to build additions on both schools. They favored those options because the costs were lower than building the whole new school, and that meant less tax increases for residents. The third faction was made up of primarily new residents with young children, and they supported the firm and the superintendent's recommendation to build the new school. So, when put to a public vote, the voters approved the building of the new middle school by a margin of 53% to 47%. So, it's a pretty narrow margin. So, there's still some division in the community. So, that new school is to be built on the same site as the elementary and high schools because there's plenty of room there. It was several acres. It is supposed to be built to accommodate up to 450 students and take about 18 months to build. So, at the current growth rate of 2% per year, that's going to meet these school districts' needs for quite a long time. So, the community members are the first group of people that I want to talk about. And those community members are divided about building the new facility. They only approved building the new middle school by a slim margin. So that's 53% to 47%. So there's still some division among the community members about what should have been done about this space problem. So we've still got some work to do as far as getting buy-in from those community members. The next group of people involved in this is the students. And so currently there are over 1,200 students that are enrolled in the school district, and that amount is increasing at 2% per year. So that means that in the next year, we're going to increase by about 24 students. The next group of people affected are the board members. There are 5 school board members. 2 of them are new to the community, and they have young children that are enrolled in the school. And those 2 advocated very strongly for the building of a new middle school. One thing I noticed is that the board members were not asked and did not define their expectations for the development of mission and vision statements for the new school. Next is the superintendent. His name is Joe Rawlings, and he did recommend the building of a new middle school to the board upon the recommendation of the architectural firm and educational planners. So the experts told him that that was their recommendation, and he agreed with that and recommended it to the board. He has also assigned the tasks of staff selection, school programming, in collaboration with architects and construction professionals to that new middle school principal. Um, I also noticed that he did not clearly define his expectations for the development of the mission and vision statements for the school. So, the next group of individuals affected would be the school staff. There was a selection of 4 of those teachers that were appointed to the selection committee for the hiring of the new middle school principal. There was also a selection of 4 teachers. I don't know whether they were the same or different. We weren't told, but they were from different subject areas that were appointed to the visioning and planning committee. I noted that there were no non teaching staff members that were appointed to any committee. So, to any committee positions, there were administrators appointed to some committee positions, but no non teaching staff members. So, no office staff, no nurses, no um, custodians, nobody like that was appointed to those committee positions. And all except 4 of the staff members from the new middle school were selected from current staff members within the district. Next, we need to look at the new middle school principal. She was selected by a committee that included teachers, administrators, and parents. She is an experienced middle school educator and is currently the assistant principal in a suburban school. So, due to her experience, she is well qualified to lead the new middle school, but she has not had the experience, at least not that we know of, in starting a school from the beginning. She is employed 12 months before the new school opens so that she can handle the tasks of staff selection. She's got to determine how many staff are needed, how they're going to recruit that staff, and she is appointed the task of hiring those staff members. And she's also been tasked with school programming. So that would be like the scope of the curriculum, any extracurricular programs that would be offered, and overall instructional approaches that are expected to be used by the staff. And she's supposed to collaborate with the architects and the construction managers on the building of the new school. Okay, the next group of people is the visioning and planning committee. So the principal received input from the superintendent and the school board on the membership of this committee. It includes 4 teachers and 4 parents that were appointed by the principal, and it also includes the principal herself. The principal preferred not to be the chair of that committee. Uh, at first, the committee wanted her to be the chair. They thought she was the most qualified. She kind of stood her ground and said no, she didn't want to be like a dictator. The committee appointed Helen Burke, who is a social studies and English teacher, to be the chair of that committee. I noted that the purpose of the Vision and Planning Committee was not real clearly defined. The committee members do have experience in the district and they have experience working with the students, so they are qualified to help ensure that the well being of the students is considered and planned for. Okay, the norms for the Visioning and Planning Committee were suggested by the middle school principal and then agreed upon by the committee members. Those norms include that all members should have a vote, that consensus is the preferred method to make decisions, and all members should agree. The first task is going to be to develop a vision statement, and the vision statement should reflect the beliefs of the collective of the committee members as well as the community at large, and that all stakeholders are given input and the ability to react to input from others. So next, we're going to talk about Helen Burke. She is the chair of the Visioning and Planning Committee. She does teach English and social studies, and she is the sister of a board member. It's important to note that that board member, her brother, is the only local farmer on the board who voted to build the new school. She also actively campaigned to build that new school herself. Right, so now we have a new issue. The Visioning and Planning Committee expects the new principal to develop the vision and mission statements and then just bring those into them for approval. but the principal feels like the vision and mission statements should be developed collaboratively by the committee with input from stakeholders and approval from the board and the superintendent. So the Vision and Planning Committee has voted to have the principal develop these documents and bring them to the committee for the approval. So that's kind of the new issue that we're facing. Some considerations for that. There's already some division in the community about building a new school, and the population of the community and the school is changing because of the influx of new residents. And the new school principal is expected to draft those vision and mission statements by herself and then present it to the committee for approval. Okay, so the next section is legal and ethical issues. So there are some possible legal issues to consider. First of all, are the mission and vision statements that are developed going to be inclusive of all students? And how will those documents affect students who may have special needs or on IEPs or who need ADA accommodations or 504 plans? Um, Next, is one person sufficient to consider all of the legal ramifications of these documents? These are important documents that drive the way decisions are made and the way people interact within the school. And so, can one person really by herself consider all those legal ramifications to write those documents? Um, how might the policies outlined in these documents affect the services, educational opportunities, and community involvement of the students? How might these documents affect community perspective of the school? So, are parents going to perceive those as being as meeting the necessary legal requirements um, as far as what their children are provided within the school environment and making sure children are not excluded? And what does the employment contract of the principal say about the scope of her position in regard to drafting those kind of documents, or does it say anything about that? And also, just what is the expectation of the superintendent and the school board regarding drafting these documents? Ethically, we need to consider how might one person drafting those documents affect the democracy of the process. So, if the committee is supposed to be acting in a democratic manner, does that affect that process, knowing that one person is going to draft those documents? And what personal biases might she have that might affect the way she drafts those documents? Additionally, what community perspectives would not be considered if the principal drafts the documents by herself? We want to be inclusive of the members of the community. And how is the principal being influenced by the community members? So, or by the committee members, not community. Um, is she being bullied into drafting these documents by herself? It kind of felt like she didn't have much say in it. Did the committee chair call for a vote too soon on whether or not the principal should draft these documents? Didn't seem like there was a lot of discussion about it. And should that even have been a vote, or is that by definition a committee process for that visioning and planning committee? And what is the overall function of the vision and planning committee? And is the vision and planning committee operating in a manner where the concerns of all the members of the committee are being appropriately addressed? So, did she get a chance to kind of present her side? So, in summary, the new principal of a middle school that is currently being built has been tasked by the Visioning and Planning Committee with developing the school's mission and vision statements, a task that she's deeply uncomfortable with taking on alone, as she feels it should be a collaborative effort by the committee with input from all stakeholders. So, what facts are missing from this? Well, we know that we don't have information about the expectations of the school board and superintendent regarding developing mission and vision statements. We don't really know how the community feels about the new principal um, and how the community feels about the new school building being built. We know that there's some division, but we really haven't heard a lot of discussion about that. Um, Also, what do the students place importance on in regard to their learning and their learning environment? How many students in the district will be in the middle school when it opens? And how many new staff will that middle school house? And also, we don't necessarily know who the other members of the Visioning and Planning Committee are. Helen Burke is one, the assistant principal is one. We know there's another teacher that's like a PE teacher, but we don't know anything about the two other teachers or the parents that are on that committee. As far as missing facts for a program, what extracurricular or academic opportunities are currently available to middle school students in the district, and what educational opportunities do students view as being important? Um, as far as the place, where on the campus will the new middle school be located? And will any classes or teachers be shared between the middle and high schools? And if so, how did the students get from one building to another and make sure that they're in their classes on time where they need to be? Section 5 was to review and prioritize the information. So there's a new middle school in a rural community. Community opinion on the school is divided. The principal has been hired from outside the district. The visioning and planning committee composed of people that were recommended by the super is composed of people who were recommended by the superintendent and the school board. The visioning and planning committee chair and 6 other members have voted to have the principal write the vision and mission statement. One member abstained from the vote and the principal voted against it. So, priorities. We need to help the committee see the importance of developing the vision and mission statements as a team with community input, and input from all stakeholders. We need to create a vision and mission statement, and we need to create a plan for the implementation of the mission and vision statements. And also, just to kind of expand on that, we need to create a plan for um, determining whether these mission and vision statements are having an impact on the school and whether they're effective. So, how I would have handled this situation. First of all, I would have asked for volunteers for that vision and planning committee from staff members, rather than just appointing them based on the recommendations of the superintendent and the board. There are some new staff members that may want to be part of that process and may have different ideas other than just doing things the same way they've always done them. Um, and during that first meeting of the Vision and Planning Committee, I would have created an agenda, and that agenda would have included voting on a chair for the committee, identifying the norms for the operation of the committee that include behavior of members, input from members, rules of order, whether consensus is required to make decision, rules for interactions during meetings, things like that. Third, we would be identifying any questions that might be asked of stakeholders in order to determine their priorities. So then we can move on with crafting a vision and mission statement as a team that includes those priorities. Um, the agenda would also include identifying the steps that are involved in developing the middle school's vision and mission statements and identifying ways to implement that vision and mission statement. And again, identifying data that we can use to craft those statements and to evaluate their effectiveness. So, as far as drafting the school's mission and vision statements, I would have sent out surveys to stakeholders, students, community members, staff regarding what they consider important for the new middle school. I would have collected those responses and reviewed them with the visioning and planning committee and then sort the responses. So, any responses that have to do with the core values of the school or the long term goals for students, and measurable, achievable goals would kind of go in a pile for the vision statement. Daily procedures and processes to help achieve that vision, things like curriculum, technology, data, equity, diversity, those would all go in the stack for the mission statement. And also in there, in that mission statement stack, there would be how staff is going to help students to achieve that goal, those goals, excuse me. Then the team would review the educational testing data, the behavioral data, the data on graduation rates, and any other data that they determine is relevant for deciding what should be in that vision and mission statement. Then we would write that vision statement as a team and distribute that vision statement only to stakeholders for feedback, edit it as necessary. And then we would write the mission statement and distribute that to the stakeholders for feedback. And then the team would develop a plan for implementing those vision and mission statements and a plan for reviewing data on a regular basis to determine the effectiveness of those statements. So the pros for my plan are that there's just more involvement from stakeholders and committee members. More involvement is going to get you more buy-in from those people because they're going to have some um, accountability for that. It's their plan, and that's going to get you more support. Once you have more support, you have more effective plans, more people backing them up. Some of the cons are there's more work in choosing the committee members and more of a time investment in crafting those documents. And there's more paperwork to analyze. There's data, there's responses to surveys and things like that. Okay, so as far as the development of the plan does include input from multiple stakeholders. It also includes a plan for the development of the vision and mission statements by the entire team using the input from the stakeholders. It includes a plan for the implementation of those vision and mission statements into everyday practice and a plan for reviewing data to evaluate the effectiveness of the vision and mission statements. Um, as far as plan implementation goes, the vision and planning committee norms would be developed by those committee members. So we would ask the committee members about their perception of the purpose of the committee, ask them about steps that are necessary in order for the committee to function successfully, gather ideas and vote as a committee on which should be included in the norms for the visioning and planning committee, and then prepare a written document listing those norms for the committee to be reviewed before the meetings. But that's before any meeting. So it should be a written document that is part of your regular process as a meeting. Um, the development of the vision and mission statements would be broken down into steps. So again, step 1 is the surveys to the stakeholders. Step 2, we'd compile the data for presentation to the committee. Step 3, it would be considering the broad goals for the school from the data. Step 4 would be using that data to write a vision statement as a committee. Step 5 would be presenting that vision statement to the superintendent, board members, community members, and students for feedback. Then we're going to consider that feedback and revise that vision statement if it's necessary. Then we're going to return to the data that was gathered and consider what steps will be needed to fulfill the vision statement, and use that data to create a mission statement. And then again, we're going to present that to community members, staff, board members, superintendent for feedback. And then the next step is to implement the vision and mission statement. So determine where that's going to be displayed and determine how staff and students can interact with the vision and mission statements to integrate them into everyday practice. Okay, my standard correlation for this assignment. It directly relates to PLO 1 because it required me to consider the problem of developing a school vision and mission statement for a new middle school. During this process, I've had to consider the success and well-being of each staff member, student, and stakeholder. And included in that process is the need to work together with individuals who have very different perspectives and focuses. As far as the reflection, this assignment has allowed me to explore ways in which I can creatively work with others whose perspectives and beliefs may differ from my own while still promoting the welfare and learning of students and staff. This process has deepened my knowledge of working collaboratively to lead others in the process of developing vision and mission statements. And then relevance, this assignment is relevant to learning that will be important for my future role as a school leader, in that it has helped me to explore ways in which I can work with others to effectively promote the future welfare and success of students, staff, and other stakeholders in the school where I work. All right. Thank you very much.